So we ended our discussion with by looking at these three combinations of letters. Okay, and so these combinations of different letters, big A, big A, little a, little a, little a, these combinations of letters, or combinations of alleles, since we know that word, these combinations are called genotypes. We see, all right, we can see, are called genotypes. And so, like I just said, let's write a little definition. They are combinations of alleles. Where do you get them? You receive, oops, switch the I and the E there, from your parents. Okay, so those are genotypes. That is something you are going to need to know. I'm going to box that in red. Okay, so those are your genotypes. So those are your genes, right? Those are in your chromosomes. And they are going to give you certain traits. So if you have this genotype, you're going to have a certain trait. If you have this one and this one, different traits. Okay, and so if we think back to the dimples, big A stood for having dimples and little a stood for not having dimples, right? And so if you have big A, which remember the capitals, the big A's, are dominant, that means that you are going to have dimples. Okay, if we go to the bottom here, the opposite, if we have little a, what we said about those recessive alleles, you need to have two of them to have that trait, because little a stands for no dimples, so you have two of them, that means you're going to have no dimples. And then in the middle here, this is the tricky one, you can probably guess, as you've seen it before too, probably in middle school, this capital A is dominant over the lowercase a. So what that means is when they're together, we are going to see the trait from the dominant one, the dominant allele, not the lowercase one. So this is also going to have dimples. Okay. Now, if the letters are called genotypes, then the traits, the actual trait that you get from the genotypes or the letters, these traits are called phenotypes. And so actually, an easy way to remember this is the phenotype is the physical trait. Phenotype, physical trait that you get from having a certain genotype. So again, let's make sure we know this is an important word that you should know the definition for. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to what kind of question might I ask you about using the terms genotype and phenotype? So I might say something like this, and this would be a relatively simple question. All right, example questions in purple here. So here's a question. Which genotypes give a phenotype of having dimples? Go ahead and answer that. Which two genotypes give a phenotype of having dimples? So that would be this one and this one, right? This gives you dimples, and this gives you dimples. Okay. Cool. So that's an example of a simple problem that you might encounter. On to the next thing, okay, to the next part of this discussion. There's more to know about these genotypes. So the genotypes of big A, little a, they are all called different things based on what we have together here. So if we have a big A and a big A, this is called homozygous dominant. The prefix homo means same. So we have two of the same that are dominant, capital letters. Over here, you can probably guess what this is. We're going to have homozygous recessive, because we have two of the same that are recessive. And then the last one, we have just heterozygous. Just making sure you can see it. We have heterozygous, okay?